Hello and welcome to another episode of the Candid Fitness, a podcast where I share my learning through personal stories and also invite guests to talk about their stories or share their expertise on all things fitness, which includes physical health, nutrition, workouts, mental health, self-discipline, and much more. Today's episode is the part 2 of the PCOS series, that is Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, with Dr Jayati Dureja, who is a practicing gynecologist and obstetrician with a special interest in Materno-Fetal medicine and prenatal genetics. Now, if you have not yet listened to part 1, pause this podcast right now, go back and listen to part 1. It is all on why someone possibly gets diagnosed with PCOS, what are the common symptoms, and the reasons as to why doctors prescribe certain medications for PCOS. We also discuss what hormonal imbalances occur in a woman's body that potentially leads to the PCOS symptoms. And today we are going to discuss what lifestyle and nutrition-based changes can a woman make to manage PCOS effectively. We also talk about some common myths and frequently asked questions. I hope this conversation would be as valuable for you as it was for me. If you enjoyed this, please leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It would mean a lot to us. Also, if you're looking for a health coach, someone who can help you integrate fitness and nutrition into your lifestyle, please head to my website abhimanyubhargav.com and check out one-on-one online coaching page. Or you can simply message me on Instagram. The links are provided in show notes. Now without further delay, let's get to our discussion. So come join us and enjoy this candid conversation.
From a nutritional perspective, do you have any suggestions or tips for people who have been diagnosed with PCOS in terms of how do they get started once they've been diagnosed, or if they've been diagnosed for a while and their doctor have asked them to either lose weight or start eating healthier or make some changes to their lifestyle?
Where to get started, if that patient can afford, I would really recommend a nutritional coach, because as we were just talking about, everybody comes from a different background, everybody's staple diet is very different, and I would not want that patient to deviate too much from what she's grown up eating, but I would sort of change the proportions of what she's grown up eating. So we have this, these plate models. Like if you take a circular plate and you divide it in the shape of a Y, so that makes it one third, one third, one third. So I would say one third would be salad, one third would be protein, and one third would be carb. And carb includes cooked vegetables. It's not just the chawal and it's not just the roti, right? And some curd also on the side. Or like in this one third carb is where I would further sort of divide the carbs into half and be like, this half should be curd and the other half can be your grain. That would be a good way to start, increasing the proteins and increasing whole raw vegetables or salads in the diet. There's a lot of different fads going around that sugars in fruits are bad. I can't tell enough how bad that sort of information is to spread. Fruit sugar is fine as long as you're eating the fruit, you're not drinking the fruit.
It has all the fiber in there, as long as you're not removing the fiber
Yeah,
part.
and even if you're drinking it, like you're juicing it, then juice it in like you would eat only one orange if you really sat down to eat it. And if you feel like having it in juice form for its other nutrients other than fiber, then juice a single orange and it might be this much juice, but then okay, you drink that. Then you shouldn't be concentrating on having a big whole glass of orange juice. That would be like some 5-6 oranges,
It's a lot.
because yeah, that fructose content would be quite a lot. And even that wouldn't be so harmful, honestly, apart from the calories point of view. Fructose in general is not harmful. There is something called fructose corn syrup, which is used in all processed foods. And because of that word fructose coming in on those labels, fructose has got a bad name, is my understanding. But fructose, as in the natural form, straight plucked from the tree and eating, is completely fine. In fact, this fructose is what is needed by the good bacteria in the gut. to grow and to prevent the bad bacteria from growing. So there's nothing wrong with eating fruits, but yeah, you decide the 3-4 fruits that you want to eat in a day, spread them out. There are better timings to eat fruit. Make sure there's enough salad with each meal, preferably eaten before the meal so one doesn't overeat the main meal, and to make sure there's a good amount of protein. So I think 1 gram per kg body weight protein is recommended. So if someone is 60 kilos, they should be getting 60 grams of protein in a day. And protein in itself is so good in giving satiety.
Yes.
That the moment anybody shifts to that much protein, they will automatically not eat so many grains. And I think we have some, popular science documentary research to blame, because I think in the 70s or 80s, this documentary came out about how bad cholesterol is. Like, it's the silent
It's actually
killer,
needed by the body.
and people stopped eating. Yeah, it's needed. Every cell is made up of cholesterol. Like, the cell lining is made of cholesterol. So, and each hormone is made of cholesterol as a precursor. Like, all estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, everything is made from cholesterol. What happened once that documentary came out is people stopped eating egg yellows, and they were told that this is bad, and they would feel hungry, so they had to eat something. And a lot of these snacks were advertised as being healthy and light, which were actually not healthy or light. They were, loaded with sugar, and they were very carb heavy. So people went from actually having somewhat balanced meals. Okay, yeah, maybe they were very heavy on the, they shouldn't be having deep fried or oily food, but overall the diet wasn't that bad. But a lot of these advertisements which tell you is juice mein you get all the nutrients of this particular fruit, that's crap. Or if someone is telling you it's baked not fried so you can eat without guilt, that's crap. So I've had like older people in the family going like, hey, don't diet, eat, this is a healthy, eat it, like don't suffer. It's not healthy. Just because the ad is saying it's healthy, it's not healthy.
There's an ad that I saw a few days back about some thermal,
Yeah.
and it said, "Just wear this thermal and you'll be fine. You don't need anything else in the winter." And I was like, "Why? Who approves these ads? Like, it just doesn't make any sense."
Yeah. So after looking at all this, and because I myself gained a lot of weight, and then like I've spent time losing it, and what I've understood is, like, if I have to tell someone in a very simple way, it would be increase your salads, increase your proteins. Dal is not a protein, because a lot of people will eat 2 katoris dal and say, I increase my proteins. So protein is chicken, egg, paneer, tofu. Soya is an okay source, because the bioavailable protein is not as good as the amount of soya that you eat. So each meal should have one of these proteins. Eat like a big bowl of salad. Don't eat anything out of a packet. Don't eat anything that's advertised. These are the 4 principles. Fifth one, which I also add for PCOS specifically, is to not eat anything white.
White.
So that's maida and refined sugar.
Okay.
White bread, maida. So all your bakery products just go away, because all bakery products are basically sugar, maida, and one extra, emulsifying agent to make cakes, to make, or like samosas is like, maida, or all these puffs that you get. Basically, the moment you look at the food and you ask, did maida or sugar go into making this? And if the answer is yes, don't eat it.
So when you say don't eat it, is it like never ever eat it, or it's like occasionally you can eat it, but don't make it part of your daily diet?
Yeah, don't make it a part of your daily diet. Once a week, and then again, it's not like once a week bola tha, so you start binging on it that one day. One meal a week, you may have it, and in a decent quantity, not.
I guess anything in moderation is okay. Like it's all about excess, right?
Yeah, it's all about. I would say PCOS is a disease of excess stress, excess junk food, excess, like when we watch movies and we're seeing, okay, the actress is PMSing and she's eaten like an entire bar of chocolate or she's eaten an entire cake, and then we also start craving it, like, oh, I'm PMSing, or I had a bad day, I deserve this. So we need to have better associations for, like, if I'm having a bad day, then I'm going to eat two bowls of salad, not like I'm going to go and get myself a pastry to feel better. So we need to really stop associating mood swings with what we are eating. I think that's another thing, but that mindfulness is going to take a lot of effort and a lot of time.
I think it becomes a vicious cycle as well. Like you are stressed, you're not in a good mood, therefore you binge. Then you binge and you're like, oh shit, I binged and I ate a lot of unhealthy food and therefore I feel worse. And then I feel worse and therefore I eat more and it just goes on like a vicious cycle. So yeah, I can totally relate
So
to
you
that.
can have like a screensaver of your phone saying like, don't binge eat when you're feeling low. I do whatever it's needed, like delete Swiggy and Zomato from your phone for some time, or it takes a lot of motivation. I myself, like, even with this knowledge, I found it difficult. So I got a nutritional coach to help me through it, and she would text me 3 times a day, are you following it, like, and she would give me a new diet, like, what's in your fridge today, what do you feel like eating tomorrow. And if I told her tomorrow I feel like eating chocolate cake, and she's like, okay, you can have it, but you have to weigh it shouldn't be more than like 50 grams ka piece, and you can eat it around this time, like in the first half of the day. So she didn't deny me anything, but I understood where I was going wrong with my cravings. I learned it's not bad to have cravings, but how much to allow myself to give into that craving is also very important, because yeah, let's face it, like, there's a lot of tempting things to eat, and I would be like, no, I deserve to experience this culinary delight. So that's what I would say. If you can afford a nutritional coach, go for it. Otherwise, the 4 or 5 principles that I've said, definitely follow those principles as far as diet is concerned. And definitely some sort of physical exercise during the day, more for the endorphin rush rather than the weight loss component. Or the weight loss is going to come mostly from the diet modification. It's not going to come so much from the
I think
exercise.
exercise is required for your general well-being as well, both mental as well as physical, because you need to put
Yeah.
mechanical stress to your bones so that your bone density increases and your bones are stronger.
Yes. Yes. And a lot of women with PCOS also suffer from depression. It's considered a part of this chronic inflammation spectrum, and it's not spoken about so much. We just assume, okay, they're feeling low because they're overweight, or they're feeling low because of, things are not normal. But depression is a separate component that is seen in these women. And exercise really helps to sort of stabilize their mood, if nothing else. So I would say, instead of going to a psychiatrist and taking antidepressants, half an hour of exercise, 45 minutes of exercise every day is much better.
Okay.
And it can be any time of the day. It doesn't have to be, oh, mujhse subah nahi utha jata, or like, I have to, today in the evening I went shopping. So what, even before sleeping, put on like a YouTube video of a trainer, doing something basic, or get a personal trainer. Like, I have a personal trainer who I have fixed a time with, and we do video sessions, and he tells me how to lift my weights properly, or keeps changing the exercise routine, because I get bored very easily. So I have some sort of a routine with him, and it's something I can do in a small room in my house. I don't have to go outside. The time doesn't matter, the environment doesn't matter. I have complete control over the environment and the space. So I think this is something a lot of women should inculcate. Like, they should start doing some sort of exercise at home. It doesn't have to be like a walk outside. There can be a lot of high impact or low impact cardio that can be done in a 6 by 6 foot area in the house, which they should really start doing. Yeah.
So, can you also share with us some of the supplements that women can take, particularly the ones who are diagnosed with PCOS and for women in general?
So I would divide this into two supplements which women with PCOS should take, and then for women in India in general. Coming to PCOS, because the dogma theory is upcoming, and the leaky gut and gut dysbiosis is being linked with the pathology behind PCOS. So I would really recommend going for probiotics as well as prebiotics. So probiotics are small capsules which come loaded with lactobacillus or bifid bacilli, which are good for the gut. They're even good for vaginal health. And prebiotics are substances which are used as sort of food by these bacteria so that they can thrive. So prebiotics would be things like banana, oats, insoluble carbohydrates, basically, which would really help the gut bacteria to grow and sort of protect this damaged, leaky gut. And a natural probiotic that is available in all our houses is curd. So that is something women with PCOS should try to include in at least 2 meals a day. Then we have some supplements available in the market, which are being sold as ovarian health supplements, and these are certain micronutrients which help these PCO follicles, which are immature follicles, to grow better. So if these follicles start growing better on their own, as we discussed, they will mature, and then the periods would happen on time. So these micronutrients are myo-inositol and D-chiro, and they have to be taken in a certain ratio and in a certain dose, which has to be decided by the doctor. And the third thing, which is not exactly a supplement because it's not something patients can start on their own, but it's an insulin sensitizer, and that is metformin. We start metformin in women with PCOS who are also showing pre-diabetes like symptoms. And it really helps these women. It helps in weight loss, it helps in regularization of cycles, and it even helps in fertility. So it's got an immense role, but again, this is something that is started by the doctor and should not be taken by the patient on her own. And another thing which really helps decrease insulin resistance, which I told you earlier, is weight loss. And something which is mentioned in all our books is that if a woman loses just 5% of her body weight, there is a very significant increase in her fertility and even period regularity. So this is why exercise and weight loss becomes important, especially in the obese PCOS. So I think all of these are very important supplements. And vitamin D is something which is again very, very important for PCO women, but also for all women in general. And I have seen cases where just taking vitamin D has regularized the periods or the cycle for a lot of patients. This is also because vitamin D acts like a hormone in the body. It's not just a supplement, and a lot of people don't know about vitamin D acting in that way. So it's possible that it acts as an intermediate hormone or intermediate messenger at the level of the ovaries, which sort of gives a jump start to the ovaries. And
So, vitamin D
yeah.
isn't that something that we can get from sun as well?
I actually did my thesis on vitamin D, and I was very surprised to know and understand how vitamin D is produced in our skin. So our skin does contain certain enzymes which convert sunlight into vitamin D in the body, and that the first product which is converted in the skin goes and gets further converted into usable vitamin D by going to the kidney and the liver. And then that goes to each cell of the body and does its function either as a cellular messenger or as a hormone. And about 80% of your body surface area should be exposed for at least 3 hours a day to sunlight. And this is data that we have for tropical countries. So when it comes to more temperate climates, we can't apply the same. When it comes to habits of staying indoors to not get tanned, because sunlight also, it's like a double-edged sword. There's a lot of skin cancers associated with sunlight. So and there is always a cosmetic side to tanning in India as well. So if you're not even if you're living in a tropical country but you're not going to be in the sun for that many hours, and even if you're in the sun for that many hours, we have our culture has a lot of modesty associated with clothing, so they will not have 80% body surface area being exposed. And then there is even a particular time of the day, like the angle of the sun rays, which is best for getting converted to vitamin D in the body. So that's only during the couple of hours in the morning, and afternoon sun is actually not that good. The angle is not so good. So if you look at all those factors, it becomes a task to get vitamin D naturally for, I would say, 95% of the world's population. So what a lot of developed nations have started doing is they've started fortifying milk, cheese, even some grains with vitamin D to decrease, it's a pandemic. It was a pandemic before Corona, and it's an ongoing pandemic of vitamin D deficiency. So a lot of governments, a lot of the health authorities are really trying to bring this into light and get people to start taking vitamin D supplements because they are needed. There's no going away from it. And how to take it again is something that you have to speak to your doctor about, because there is something known as vitamin D toxicity also in the body.
So there could be too much vitamin D in body as well.
Yeah, so there are side effects to too much vitamin D, because we basically have two types of vitamins. Broadly, there are fat soluble and there are water soluble. So fat soluble vitamins have to be taken in a certain restricted amount, and water soluble ones you can take as much as you want. They won't cause any harm because the excess will just be thrown out by your body in the form of sweat, and when you go to pass urine. So vitamin D, A, E, and vitamin K, these are the four vitamins which are fat soluble, and this is something that you should not start supplementing on your own. There's a way to take vitamin D like once a week for the first 4 to 6 weeks, then once a month for the next 4 to 6 months in case of a deficiency, and then maybe once every 2 months of for your rest of your life for maintenance. So
once every 2 months.
Once every 2 months after you've reached adequate levels. Yeah. So I mean, there's a way we go about it. Once the initial therapeutic course is over, then the maintenance course, because we know people are not getting exposure to sunlight, and even that sunlight requires a lot of body surface area being exposed. So this is a type of deficiency that will keep coming back. So we do need a maintenance dose. So once in every 2 months should be sufficient to maintain normal levels without going into toxicity. Again, this is something that we'll do a blood test before we advise, going in for a routine like that. Because if someone's had very high levels, then we'll give them maybe once in 3 months or once in 4 months, or we'll tell them, okay, now the next one you take after 3 months.
Okay. So we all should get our blood tested and check if we have vitamin D deficiency.
I am sure everybody will have vitamin D deficiency. There was not a single patient in my entire thesis who did not have vitamin D deficiency. So I had 100% rate of deficiency in my thesis. And I tested
Wow,
around 200 women. Yeah. I tested around 200 women and they all had vitamin D deficiency, and these were all pregnant women. So you can imagine the implications on the next generation. Like the fetus requires a lot of calcium and vitamin D for bone synthesis. So we are giving birth to a generation of, vitamin D deficiency at birth,
Mm-hmm.
which is very scary. So that's why it's very important for women to take vitamin D.
Yeah, I think men should also take vitamin D, given you're saying that it requires 3 hours of exposure per day, which is quite a lot.
Yeah, unless you're a farmer who's, farming wearing only a lungi, maybe you're getting vitamin D exposure from the sun. Everybody else needs the supplements.
Right. So we sort of got into that vitamin D trajectory. Coming back to the supplements, is there anything else that you recommend generally to all the women?
So I think I told you about the PCO women, and then in all the women, I think probiotics, prebiotics is something I would recommend not only all women but all men as well. And vitamin D again is common to everybody. Then something which another sort of very common problem in Indian women is that of iron deficiency, and that usually happens because a lot of women don't disclose when they have very heavy bleeding during periods, and a lot of women with PCOS also have heavy bleeding because they get a withdrawal sometimes after 2 to 3 months. So the period they get can get quite heavy. So iron supplements or having a non-vegetarian diet, and also getting the cause behind iron deficiency looked into is very important for all women. Then calcium supplements, at least 500 milligram per day, I would recommend to all women above the age of 30, because all the bone mineralization that has to happen happens by the end of our 20s. And after that, whenever there's inadequate calcium in our bloodstream, the hormones just sort of go and start chiseling away at our bones to make sure there's enough calcium in the bloodstream. Because calcium is a very important, it almost acts like an enzyme or an intermediate substrate for a lot of reactions happening in each cell. Like when you contract your muscles, you need calcium. If you're blinking, that's like, your muscles are working. So you need calcium even for blinking, for eating,
Right.
for walking. Yeah. So we think of calcium and vitamin D only with respect to bones. And that's what the body does. Like if you don't have enough calcium, once your aging starts after 30 and your new bone formation stops after 30, it's just going to keep chiseling away at the reserve of calcium in your body, which is bones. So bones may have a functional use, that is doing sports and walking and maintaining your body structure, but the brain and all the cells don't see that as a very great use. The first use they see from the bones is that that's our calcium bank, and they start eroding
Mm-hmm.
it away, because each cell needs calcium at the level of the nucleus, at the level of the mitochondria, at the level of to process food, to make blood clot, to as I said, even blinking requires calcium in the muscles. So that's the reason why all women above the age of 30 should just start taking calcium. And this is it should be 1,000 milligram for pregnant women as well as menopausal women
Okay. 1,000 milligram per day.
per day.
Okay.
And another trend I've seen amongst a lot of women in the city is to go vegan. So
Mm-hmm.
I want to address that as well, because once you go vegan, or even the largely vegetarian diet that Indians follow, there's a severe lack of B12, vitamin B12, which is found only in animal sources. So, and B12 is again almost as important as calcium. It has almost the same functions which I told you, like from being involved in the blood cells to the muscles, and even more importantly, for nerves to transmit signals. So a lot of people who have B12 deficiency, they start having tingling, numbness, slowness. So B12 is something all vegetarians should take as a supplement, and especially vegan people following a vegan diet should take B12.
Is there a recommended dosage for that?
So all these vitamins, almost all the vitamins have an RDA, recommended daily allowance, which is recommended on the fact or on the assumption that you have a basic reserve and what you need to take daily to maintain, all your body functions. So that level is quite low. It's, I think, about I'll have to cross check, but it's about 100 microgram or something, very small amount. It's something that one egg yolk a day can give you easily. If you take
Okay.
one egg yolk a day, or even one egg yolk 4 times a week, your B12 will be good to go. But once a person has deficiency, they would have a different type of anemia as far as, the blood picture of B12 is concerned, and they would also have these nerve related symptoms. So in those people, we need to give them 1500 microgram or 1.5 milligram a day till the levels are corrected, and then they can go back to the RDA recommended values once the levels are corrected over about 2 months. And that is level correction as well as building up some storage reserves in the body. So
Okay, got it.
and another thing I would like to inquire about, if I see a non-vegetarian person coming with B12 deficiency, since we're talking about B12, and they also have these symptoms, then I would think about malabsorption, celiac, gluten intolerance. So it could be somebody who's been having, egg and chicken and all these animal sources of B12, but like say having roti every day. So it's not getting absorbed. And these are the kind of people who would require B12 injections because their gut is not absorbing B12.
All right.
So, I mean, I think we can talk about each, vitamin and nutritional deficiency or for an entirely different podcast. But
Yeah.
yeah, but women do need to take care of all of this because nutrition is something women tend to neglect a lot because of diet fads and weight loss, and they don't most women don't know that the primary function of bones is not movement but to act as a calcium bank, and that it's getting eroded away after the age of 30. Yeah, and before I forget, folic acid is another vitamin required by women who are planning pregnancy, because folic acid deficiency can cause neural tube defects in the fetus. So that is something I would again reserve. If you're saying for all general women, I would keep it for the reproductive age group women who come to me. So these are things women should know and they should take care of. I think that's what I would talk about in general. Yeah.
Excellent. One question that has popped up multiple times is around weight gain and PCOS. And specifically, it is more around the fact that, say, some women can be overweight, but they have been able to manage PCOS. They are eating healthy. After they got diagnosed, they've started eating healthy, they've started exercising, but they are still at a level where they are considered overweight, but their periods are normal. So, in that scenario, from the perspective of PCOS management, should they work on further reducing their weight, or it's okay to be slightly overweight and be doing what they are doing as long as they are able to manage their PCOS?
See, it depends on what is the person's target when they started exercising. If it is just to have regular periods, lose some weight, they don't want to look a certain way, they don't want to wear certain clothes, they don't mind being slightly overweight, and their periods are fine, their acne has come down or their ovaries are looking better on the scan. Okay, keep doing what you're doing. Being overweight has other health implications like on heart health, on joints, the weight that the joints have to bear, on bone health. So weight itself has other implications. Again, it predisposes the person to diabetes, increases risk of hypertension. So there are other things which are independently related with weight, which is why the person, if possible, can get into a normal BMI or not be overweight would be beneficial. But if the person is slightly overweight and is doing well, keep doing it. Like weight loss is a very slow process, and continuing and maintaining is more important than having these targets to reach in a particular time. The effort, it's going to be a slow, continuous effort that is going to be needed. So, and in any chronic disease, the motivation, to stay motivated to do something every day is very tough. So I would just congratulate such a person that, okay, you're doing well, your periods have improved. Don't stop doing what you're doing. Just because your periods got okay
Continue
doesn't
doing.
mean, yeah, continue doing it. It's working for you. And even in women who aren't seeing dramatic improvements, I feel they should also not stop, because at least it's going to prevent it from getting worse, is what I'm going to tell them. And it may, some people see changes in 2 months, but for that person, it may take, 6 months or 8 months to see similar changes. So it's important to not give up. And even in thin PCOS, there is insulin resistance, and insulin resistance definitely comes down by cutting out the refined sugars and refined grains, and by exercising. So even though they don't need to exercise to lose weight, they need to exercise to decrease the insulin resistance, and that is something they need to understand. If I when I'm telling a very thin person, no, you need to exercise, they'll be like, what do you mean? I'm already so thin. So they also need to
I
understand
think with
that.
terms of being thin and not exercising, it's sort of a
Yeah.
myth, because when you exercise, you burn more calories, but at the same time, you're also building more muscles. And because you're burning more calories, you feel more hungry. And if
Hmm.
you take care of your nutrition, then in effect you build mass. So if you are thin and if you exercise, and you take care of your diet, then that's a great way to get broader, build some muscles, and look and feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, so in like the thin PCO, I would tell them to do more of strength training, because muscles are one of the biggest sources of insulin resistance in the body. So I would advise strength training to all, but if someone is very concerned about becoming thinner, then I would tell that person, okay, you do more strength training and less of high impact cardio, you do steady state cardio. And for someone who's overweight, I would tell them to do everything, like fixed days for cardios, fixed days for strength training, and again, have somebody advising them how to go about it. Because we are not experts. I just know these terms, but I could design something for them saying you need to do this much cardio, you need to do this much strength training. But I think it all requires supervision, it all requires training. And if they can come to me for this advice, they should go to an expert in training and an expert in nutrition for that advice as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's another very common question that I hear about strength training in women, that a lot of women say that if we strength train and if we have PCOS, because of the excess male hormones, we tend to get bulkier. Is that something to do with PCOS, or is that something that you've seen or heard from your patients?
I haven't seen it. Yes, they do have extra testosterone in their bodies. Every woman has testosterone. Every man has estrogen. I think that is something people should know. So it's just that in the PCOS women, the testosterone levels are slightly more than testosterone levels in other women. They're not so as high as a man.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, that's what I wanted to know.
If they're as high, yeah, if they're as high as a man's testosterone levels, then it's probably a tumor in the ovary or the adrenal, and it needs to be removed. because if they become that high, they would have voice changes, they would have a whole lot of other things happening in their body if they ever get as much as a man's testosterone levels. So that testosterone is just causing some bad hair and acne and some scalp hair loss. Yeah, that's the level of testosterone. And another thing which a lot of women don't know is that these birth control pills, even when they're targeted at reducing the hair, will not work on the hair which has already come out. It will only prevent the new hair from coming out. And the coarse man like hair which has already come out on their skin, that can only go away by plucking, waxing, or by laser. So they have these unrealistic expectations that I started this pill and my hair is still there. So with my patients, I'm very clear that you won't get new hair, but the hair that's already come out, you need laser or waxing to be done for that. So it's quite a complex disease, as you've understood, and all these changes will also prevent cancer and diabetes, which could happen in the future. It's very complex disease, and we don't talk about these aspects of PCOS normally with in the non-medical practice. Yeah, this is something we talk about at conferences, but I feel not enough patients know that there are things more long term than just getting your period or conceiving. There's cancer and diabetes and hypertension to worry about in the long run as well. So once they understand the long term implications, then they would, I feel, be more attentive to the small daily changes they can make in their life to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, it all makes sense. That was a good session, very informative.
Yeah, I enjoyed. Yeah, I feel like I've gone through the entire PCOS knowledge I've got from some 10 books.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for having that detailed conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast, and if you did, please do share it with your friends, relatives, colleagues, anyone you possibly can. PCOS is widespread, affecting women not just in India but all over the world, and there is still very little awareness about this. So spread the word, educate yourself and those around you. Our next episode will be again on women's health, where we discuss the importance of exercise during and after pregnancy with a renowned pre- and postnatal fitness coach from Australia. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Until next time, my friends, have a wonderful day and be awesome.